Hello and welcome to the podcast edition of the Young Conservation Scientist Conference 2017. My name is Sian Douglas and I'll be presenting the 5 podcasts in this series. The Young Conservation Scientist Conference is a 3-day event at the Saranuri University of Technology in Thailand. It has brought together like-minded people, all with the hope of conserving the fauna and flora of Southeast Asia. We were fortunate enough to have received talks from some of the leading conservation and research experts in the region. The audio of each talk has been recorded, so I'm delighted to be able to share these with you today. In this podcast, you will be able to listen to the talk given at the conference, and at the end I'll discuss the questions asked by the audience with the speaker. Dr. Chution Savini is currently working as a lecturer and is the Deputy Dean for Research at the International College for Sustainability Studies, Sinakalinwilot University in Bangkok, Thailand. She was previously a wildlife scientist for Wildlife Conservation Society's Thailand programme from 2000 to 2003 and again in 2009 until 2012. Chution's main interests lie in conducting wildlife studies and conservation strategies using a science-based approach to strengthen wildlife conservation and research in Thailand. Solving human-wildlife social conflict is an integral part of a successful conservation programme, so her current research focuses on human-elephant conflict and ecotourism. Over to you, Chution.
The first thing that I want to say that this is very unique meeting that I'm very happy. I told Colin that this is very warm atmosphere. I'm very happy to stay among all the young people, young conservationists, okay? And we would like to encourage you to keep going with conservation because there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of things to do. Okay, so this case is just case study. I would say that case study for conservation, if you target on some certain species like, elephants or gecko or snake. And the case study here that I would like to focus on elephants as a symbol of the nation. And in Thailand, in Asia, there are a lot of elephants, population around, but the problem that we don't know much about them. We have problem with estimating their population. We have problem with human-elephant conflict. So today the topic gonna share with you is about how to estimate the wild elephant population, how many they are, estimating, and human-elephant conflict situation in Thailand, especially in the remaining forests. So first of all, I would like to give credits also to Dr. Mathanasi Grajang. She was working with us in many aspects on elephant conservation. Right now she retired, but when she was still working, she's in the wildlife research division, okay, under the Department of National Park, Wildlife and Plant Conservation. And right now, even she retired, she still also have passion to keep going, supporting all young conservationists and also young people like you. So she's still the technical advisor, helping all kind of supports on elephant conservation in Thailand. Goals that we have set, okay, is about how to get information of national census of the remaining wild elephant population. And the second goal is to access of the presence of intensity of HCC or human-elephant conflict. As you know, that problem that face wild elephants so far, the first one that people talk about is habitat loss. And the second one is right now become one of the big threats to elephant in Asia. Right now it's a human-elephant conflict, which is caused smaller cause is actually come from the human-elephant conflict, but the main cause actually habitat loss. When you have small area that elephant can stay, they move to the human community area. Hunting pressure is still one of the main cause, but not in Asia, mostly in Africa. We got some cases in Thailand as well, but not many cases in the last 10 years. When you look at the habitat in Thailand, this is a data that is not updated, but you can see the trend of since 1973 that the forest cover has declined a lot. Okay, and you can see that percent forest cover declined from 1970 to 2010. This is the data that we got a long time ago, but imagine right now there are a lot of projects of corridor or increasing or the reserve forest, but still no information that tell us how it's going on right now. Okay. Also fragmentation. You can see that this is just a general example. You can look at this from the website. It's everywhere. That 1973, you can see some green area, but more and more you can see small patches of the forest around, and it's splitting into smaller size. Okay, and look at the size. It's decreasing. The forest cover also decline. Okay, so this is a picture of poaching activity that we got from Kangrajan National Park. In Kangrajan, it's very unique that there are problems with human-elephant conflict, and also a lot of projects going on around. It's all the biodiversity research, and still threats are still going on until now. This is a picture that you can see that there are threats on hornbills, threats on hunting of hornbill, also poaching of the small chicks. Okay, and a lot of cases that happen with the conflicts every single day. Poaching on ivory poaching is also happened in 2012 and 2014. There were cases as well. However, it's not only in the area of Kangrajan, but this is happened to have moved the human-elephant conflict problem to the eastern part of Thailand. Right now, it's one of the hotspots for HCC. I will explain about that later. But you can see that when they have local people, this is a house that elephant just enter the house like that every single day. Okay, so just give you information about how uniqueness of elephants population for conservation problem in the country, in Thailand. We have two groups of population which are about the same number. That create a lot of problem when we want to conduct the strategies for conservation. The two populations are population from captivity and also population from the wild. The problem that create from all these two groups when you want to match the conservation in the whole pictures, because captivity, the elephant in the captivity, they are taken care by the Ministry of Interior, Department of Administration, which is different government section. And the one of the wild population, Department of National Park, Wildlife and Plant Conservation, we call DNP, is the one who take care of the protected areas. And Ministry of Natural Resources and under the Environment Ministry. You see, so they have totally different set of database and group of people who work for conservation in these two groups of population. We create a study site, okay, by sending the questionnaire to wildlife sanctuary and national park in Thailand. So it's about December 2013 to March 2014 that we got all the information. Actually, it's a population estimates from people who work as a researcher in each protected area. And partial data come from also the DNP database. We look at the questionnaire, so there are in total 31 protected areas from 41 wildlife sanctuary and 40 national parks all over Thailand of 11 forest complex. You can see that in Thailand we divided by forest complex of the 11 complexes. Okay, so what have we got? We got the number. Okay, we got presence of the elephants and HCC in protected area. When you look at the number, it's total 81%, but in total 81%, there are 83.9%, okay, come from the area that have elephant present. But in this, among all these areas that with elephant population distribute, there are about 77.9% have problem with HCC. So when you look at this information, it looks like, it's a big thing that happened for elephant conservation. When you look at in the general picture, you can see that very high percentage of the area that have elephants create a problem of HCC or human-elephant conflict. So both elephant and human suffer. Okay, so this is a map from DNP that show you the scatter around of the patch of the forest and their distribution. You can see that the one in the frame, in the blue frame, has contained a very big population, like the one of the Western Forest Complex is about 800 to 900. So this is the area that is a big piece of forest. Okay, so this is the information of estimated population size. This data, as I mentioned to you, is the last number that formal report from the Department of Local Administration in 2012 mentioned that for captivity it's about 2,600 to 4,000, which is a very rough estimation. And for the Y, as you know that we don't have really real baseline data, like what Alice said, that for conservation, you really need the baseline data for future strategies, for management strategies. Baseline data is very, very important. How you can do or manage certain species in the world, like in your target species, if you don't know about them. So baseline data is one of the information that I would encourage all the young conservation that you start from your own work. You try to identify your work. You learn about what species that you are actually focusing, and then you know what to do with them in terms of management. Okay, but 2 weeks ago we had IUCN specialist group meeting, and it was confirmed that elephant in captivity actually has been increased. We don't know about wild population at all. Okay, so this is one of the information that we collect from the 22 HCC site of 2001. And then we have, after that, start to track how many areas of protected area that still have HCC in 2015. You can see that it's become 3 times more than in the past, in the last 10 years. Okay, so what happened? Why a lot of problem of the human-elephant conflict happen in the protected area and also outside protected area? As Dr. Robert mentioned, and also Dr. Tony mentioned about how do you increase the community awareness. It's very important. It's one of the manpower, the key power. You can't really work in the national park much anymore if your animals are outside. So you really need to work with local community. You really need to change a bit of mindset instead of working only for your focal species. There are a lot of stakeholders around for management and also for conservation. Okay, so this is just to tell you the rough idea of threats to wild elephant. You can see that, just to confirm what I just mentioned, that when you split into 4 different periods, okay, the one that we found total number of elephants death, okay, the one that caused the most and the most problem because of human-elephant conflict, and total number of elephants that they die because of all these kind of threats increasing every period. Okay, so right now we're gonna give you information about what it happened of human-elephant conflict situation in 4 different areas in Thailand. We start with the north. Okay, in the north, the forest habitat still small. Okay, small and very fragmented. As you know, if you have chance to walk in the forest in the north, it's still very small patches of forest. Elephants mainly live in the captivities, and because there is a elephant hospital there, so many of elephants that get problem or also elephants that get injured, they were transferred to the north. And also more research on captive elephants. Not much research in the wild, but they have also information of population estimates, but from questionnaire as well. So field research on wild elephant, small number of the wild elephant that cause the HCC. Mitigation have been conducted. When I mention about mitigation, is something that come from local community, come from the government. Okay, they try to protect their own crops or their own problem by creating their own methods, such as they use alarm fences, they use electric fences. Sometimes can be very local way, and sometimes can be very systematic way. Depends on who support and who provide them the idea. Okay, how about the HCC situation in the northeastern part of Thailand? Still a little habitat left. Habitat is fragmented, but few large patches such as Khao Yai, Tablan, Phu Kieu. This is area you see in the square, blue square. They show the high conflict in some protected area. However, mitigation have been conducted by the government and local communities. In the West, we show that consider very high conflict. Western Forest Complex in this site, you see from the frame, has a World Heritage Site, okay, Hoi Khai Khang World Heritage. And there are mitigations. There are NGO working, there are government, they really pay attention on that. So there are sites of WCS, WWF, and SADSL, and also a lot of local NGO working in this area. Eastern part, east-south part of Thailand, this area is known now that it's quite people concerned about because it's very high conflict. It shows that number of elephants and number of population of people actually very high on the number of deaths because of the conflict is very high. The area is attached to each other. The small size protected area, but very high number of population of elephants. And the main thing that happened here, like one, you might know that there is a road go along the wildlife sanctuary, and also get a lot of problem with car accident. Okay. Okay, so this is just a map that I want to show you that after we have worked with the local community in the eastern part of Thailand, in the area that have very high conflict. You can look at the map here that elephants come out everywhere. It looks like, you see, you have a big area of the forest around, okay? And there is road everywhere. And elephants stay around the local community area. So no chance to really, make them stay back to the forest. They live around there. So this is a long-term problem that really have, difficult way to really manage. As soon as the elephants are outside and they get used to, they try to learn to stay outside the protected area. There are a lot of electric fences around of the idea that they try to protect elephant to go out. The problem that the electric fences has also blocked a lot of species, and also it has very bad maintenance budget. So sometimes when they set up the fence, they don't have a long-term maintenance, and the fence, with the very high cost, they can't really maintain in the long term. So you really need to work together with the local community area. This is about 7 protected areas that have problem together. And once we come together, we meet local people, they said, it's not our elephant, it's your elephant. You see, but all elephants stay around this area. We don't know where the elephant come from. This is one of the main problems. Okay, how about the south? They have a habitat fragmentation also, come from rubber plantation, palm plantation, and little research has started. There is one lady, she was my student from German. She worked on the effect of elephant population and human-elephant conflict to the rubber plantation, and we found a lot of nice things. And rubber plantation is one of the crops that got damaged also the most in that area. Okay, this is another one that not many people like to touch. It's about transboundary issues. We have area that connect with many countries like Myanmar, in Cambodia, and Malaysia, Laos, and elephant cross between borders. So what should we do on this kind of problem? You need policy maker, you need corporations, you need international agencies, you need local community. So you see that all conservation is not really, the patterns. You need a lot of multidisciplinary, something like you need a lot of stakeholders, you need art skills to be able to communicate and encourage policy maker to be able to help us on this. Okay, so from now on, I'm gonna share with you one case study that if you focus on one species, how you're gonna start and what kind of protocol that you can have for species understanding. So this is an example of Wildlife Conservation Society. I still use the old logo. Right now, Wildlife Conservation Society, they changed the logo to very nice design. I worked for this organization when I was a student. Dr. Anthony Lynam was my previous boss. It's the first organization that I worked for. I started working with YCS when I was a student as a translator. You can see that all the movement of the job career has started. And also when you get to know people, you get to understand about the concept of conservation, you start looking for jobs. Okay? So, and this one is one of the case study that I want to share with you, that how WCS has started to work in this area in Thailand on large mammal conservation. They set up goals. In 2006, they set up goals to develop wildlife-based strategies. So they don't actually mention about elephant. They mention that elephant is one of the key species to be able to protect, and they try to understand crop breeding pattern. We start with the field work, and then the problem of this area, that there are problems with human-elephant conflict. So there is no choice. You have to work with local community. So they want to know that crop breeding patterns has actually some relation to ecology of the elephants or not. Okay, so this area has been focused in Khao Yai National Park, the lower land. It's a long Tenasserim range. It's close to Myanmar side. You can look at this. This Khao Yai National Park is the largest area. Elevation is very varied from 100 to 1,500 meters. So it's very, some area is very high elevation, and some area is very flat. So what happened to population of elephant? They don't use the entire park. Most of them, some of them, use the one of the southern part of Khao Yai. You can see the red dots, the area that have human-elephant conflict incident. Okay, so and then outside, all the white part is all local community areas. Mainly, the area here has been the problem of human-elephant conflict for years, and then there are problems with how to bring them back. The problem is that they are not back. They live there, they give birth there, and they have a family there. So, what should we do? Wildlife Conservation Society try to understand, okay, the problem, try to understand the level of the conflicts. So 2004, they have, this is the 4 areas of Bung Nakhon, Pa Deng, this is all the districts name. 4 areas here has problem with human-elephant conflict. They have to work with local community. They have to have a survey of the crop damage. Why you have to do this? For this crop estimate and crop damage cost. Because one thing that you have, if information is good, information is systematic measure, this is part of the information that you can use as a baseline data for getting the support. Why we have to get this? Because we want to give all this information to Prachuap Khiri Khan province, is the governor. Okay, so if they understand this is a very big problem in the area, you got information. Part of this is try to provoke all the attention from the government. In the end, they got the estimate budget of the crop damage, and you can see that it's sometimes you can convert it to dollars, to baht. It depends on who gonna support or what you are going to need help from. Okay, and ground check. They also have a live transect survey all entire park in 2005. In the end, this is a threat of elephant that was estimated in 2008. You can see that 2006, 2007, 2008, different period. You can see that most of the threats are located on the upper part of the national park and also the central part. So what happened to that part, and the southern part elephant use it? You can see that this map show that the locations of the South Lake are in the central part and also located a lot at the lower part of Khao Yai. The same thing as the villagers. When they have crops, they grow crops, and also elephant, they have a lot of things to forage, so they stay there because of there are salt lakes, there are crops, and also no threats. You see, so if you look at the whole entire picture, the threats are located mainly above of the area, and the central part and the southern part are elephant population distributed. Okay, so this is just some supported data from statistical analysis. You can see that logistic regression help to examine the factor determining of the distribution of elephants. And we found that elephants prefer to be close to the mineral lake and at the low elevation and near stream. Makes sense, because they prefer salt lake. They like to stay in the area that they can forage easily, and they don't want to go up to the high terrain much, because they have to spend a big effort on that. They might go, but not the population that they are favorite to stay. Distance from the threat location was not significant and related to probability of the elephant detection as well. We tried to check the number of the villages around, and actually we don't see the significant relationship between local community areas and also human-elephant conflict incident area. Okay, so ANOVA, this is the ANOVA, can tell that the major determinant of the amount of damage caused to the crop. And crop damage appear to be related mostly to the trampling rather than consumption. So it means that the elephant actually, they don't eat much in some crop species, but they just wander around and damage the crop because of their large size. Especially the area here, it's a pineapple farm. So it's very easy to be damaged. Okay, so there was no significant difference. So this is all information that we have found. Crop mostly damaged by elephants, such as corn, pineapple, jackfruits. This is all common crops that villagers have. And mitigation effort in some area was successful because of they have a very high number of guard team. This is what we have discovered. So what we try to use this basic information is trying to get information to local community that at night, please join all the groups, because when you have big majority of guard team, it's gonna help drive elephant and it's more effective. So in conclusion, elephants select location within the forest, okay, and they prefer mineral lake, they prefer to stay in the easy terrain and access to the water. Crop raiding by elephant is a seasonal movement and is correlated and decrease the quality of the major food sources throughout year. I won't go into detail, but this is the information that we have got. In the end, all this information has been promoted to the local community and the government. They will use it or not. Right now is still the big question that once we got all the baseline data, and the problem that how do you deliver all this message to all the stakeholders? Okay, so I want to discuss that even HCC is the main threat to elephant in Thailand. However, we show that the location of human-elephant conflict actually part of the problem for conservation in Thailand. Elephant population in the wild still stable, but the population in captivity is increasing slowly, more and more. The lasting serious problem for elephant conservation, especially in Thailand, is lack of knowledge for management. So once you know the population, you know about the distribution of population, you understand more ecology of elephant, I think that you get a very nice basic information to be able to manage. Okay, so many times when we got all this information, I got some suggestion to be able to transfer all this message to local community. I won't go into detail, but the management, you need a lot of systematic mitigation. As I show you from the eastern part of Thailand, that you have 7 protected area. Everyone has suffer from the human-elephant conflict. But the problem that when they work, they set up their own project, they set up their own fence. So systematic mitigation techniques should be able to design together among all the local population and also among the government agencies. So you can have the systematic mitigation in the short term, but in the long term, you really need policy maker, you need a lot of stakeholders to be able to get all these things as a whole and clear picture. I want to show you one more result that just to confirm. This is the result of 2017, which is very recent data. This is data that students collect. They try to estimate the cost of elephants' death, and still, since 2000 until 2017, almost half the entire population of elephant that die, 50%, close to 50% die because of human-elephant conflict. And males are the one that die the most compared with females. Okay, and then this is all information. How do you apply? Alice mentioned about how do you get connection to send all this message to other people, to send a message to all the stakeholders, to send a message to policymaker. How? As conservationists, this is one of the things that as I am in the department of the sustainability. So we focus on various kind of things, not only Faculty of Science that focus on ecology. We focus on sustainability and try to apply basic knowledge in the sustainability and sustainable development goals. You might get familiar with these 18 goals that United Nations has proposed since 2015, and right now still go on, and Thailand have the commitment to support this kind of development goals. So basically this kind of information has started because of you can't really focus on biodiversity, only one thing. But when you have to face the problem of conservation, the problem of species decline, there are developments of infrastructure every single day. So how do you assign your work to meet the needs? This is the problem. So they focus on a lot of things. For example, reduce the poverty, reduce hunger, provide a better education, get awareness from local community. So all this as the main function of the sustainable development goals. What is sustainability? A lot of people talk about sustainable development goals come from the concept of sustainability, which is 3 dimensions here. You have to get a balance of the national environment, economic, and healthy community. How you get to this kind of thing? When you work on wildlife, you really need to get the network to be able to get this connection on this. So we work a lot on people. So far that we work a lot on people who are in the tourism industry. Okay, and just to fit this concept, how do you fit the concept of if you have a lot of tourism take place in many areas, in protected area, these kind of tourists who have lack of awareness has problem to your species in protected area, even in Africa or in Asia. So how do you fit this kind of problem to development? Okay, so you might, some of you might heard the talk of my student. They focus on the mother honey. This is the definition. There's the lady that the scientists that try to identify the definition of ecotourism. But can ecotourism help with the elephant conservation? It helps if you fit with all these criteria. The problem that how do you manage to have ecotourism that actually people scare off and try to make them fit with all single definition. When you have to deal with people who are in different sectors like tourism, you have to talk with people who are in part of the education or also businessmen. Why ecotourism? There are a lot of ideas of ecotourism because ecotourism is between sustainable tourism and nature tourism. I just show you that this is not the best solution, but if you want to try to link your basic information to outside, to stakeholders, to people who are around, ecotourism can be one of the solutions, but you really need to manage. So you come back to how do you manage for conservation? Okay, so if ecotourism is good, they have to support conservation, they have to help with profitability and empower local people. And if it's not good, what's gonna happen? It's gonna be in the mass side, in the mass tourism side. It's very, very bad on this. Instead of helping, it's gonna destroy immediately. Okay, if you are working in protected area and you think that you're gonna bring tourism in the area, and if you don't manage well, it's gonna be bad signs on that. Okay, so this is I got this from textbook that show how it works. It's a mechanism. If it works, you can have tourist satisfactions going very high. Local people, instead of doing their own job or doing the hunting activities, they help you. They help maintain, they have ownership, and in the end you get income increase in the area. And in the same time, the main purpose of ecotourism is you help with conservation. Okay, so just to support this idea, it is quite dangerous to hear that. When I went to the global summit in Bangkok, we had the Prime Minister open the ceremony. And a lot of people talk about how to manage the conservation, how to get sustainability in the tourism. Our Prime Minister also mentioned about how to manage to have tourism industry work. Okay, how Thailand can be the hub of tourism in the whole region. When you hear this kind of thing, you work on a species conservation, you feel that this is something that scares. Okay, but how do you manage to have to adjust this kind of idea linked with what you are doing? Okay, so I'm thinking that if you face all this kind of thing, you don't need to make things happen. You are doing good in your field, but in the same time, in the other side, you have people that try to focus on different things. What you have to do is getting passion, keep going. This one, they show about this lady that helped with ecotourism in the area of Maasai. Okay, she's a Maasai. And then in the area, she is a woman. So she can't, and she's young, she can't really work to serve the tourists much because she has to work with her mom in the kitchen. That's what she said in the video clip. And in the end, they said, with empowerment strategies that people have for the African activities like this for conservation, she could be able to empower herself. And right now she knows how to drive. She could be able to send a message from conservation to tourists as a local community. Okay, so I would like you to see this as a case study, not the pattern that ecotourism can help in every single area of the conservation. As you know that you work in different biodiversity species, and also every single species play roles in the ecosystem. But once you are in the direction that you cannot do pure science all the time, you have to really expand and change a bit of the mindset to be able to keep going in what you are interested in, but getting more network, getting more understanding, and getting to know that people know what you are doing. I think that passion is very important. As you know that I start with WCS, sharing with WCS job with the translation. And then I jump to study until I finish, and then I go back to WCS. And after that, you see the whole picture of conservation. And right now, I jump to the academic place, which is totally different. We have to do a lot of unuseful documents, especially for the Thai professors. A lot of things that need to be written, but you don't use it. So it's a thing that you really, try to make it passionate. I'm happy with teaching. You are happy what you are doing in the field. You are happy what you are doing for training, for education. You know that what skills that you like, and bring the passion to your career, and I'm sure that you can make it. In the long term, you have a lot of things to do. I'm sure that you can see from this case study that a lot of things to do, and we still miss the baseline information. I would encourage you to be able to know what you are doing well, and you can use for management in the future. Thank you. Forgot to thank. I would like to thank Dr. Colin Stride, and also SUT for giving us the opportunity, and also, as I mentioned, very warm welcome on this kind of meeting. I would encourage you to do one more time next year, whatever stakeholders, but this is very useful. I'm sure that all the young generation, they feel that this is their stage, that they can actually exchange and get all information. Thank you, Dr. Thaksin, for being the supportive person all the time. I could see that he is always with us as a senior scientist and senior conservationist. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much.
Dr. Chution Savini, thank you for highlighting the conflict that can occur with such a globally loved species and how the problems might be mitigated. And also thank you for attending the YCS conference to deliver your talk. I'd like to discuss some of the questions that were raised at the end of your talk. How do you see the future of elephants in Thailand?
I think the population could be concerned, as I mentioned in the talk, that there are groups of elephant in captivities and group of elephant in the wild. The very uniqueness of the elephant conservation in Thailand, that you have two group of these elephant populations in the captivity and in the wild about the same amount. So what you have to deal with is conservation in the perspective of the captivities, elephant in captivities, and the perspective of conservation in the wild, which is not the same at all. So you have to deal with different government sectors, deal with local NGOs and international in different sectors as well. For the captivities, you have to deal with a lot with the people in tourism industries, and they have their own, ways of managing their elephants. So I think that for population of elephants, what can be concerned is trying to get cooperation of these two group of stakeholders that can work in the whole overall conservation strategies. And I think that would be work. And also for the young generation, you basically, with elephant conservation, that their question is what kind of population that should be concerned, make it increase or make it decrease, because in some area you have, there are some evidences that show that it's overpopulation because of there are a lot of things going on, but some area that is shown that when elephant disappear, it's going to have problem with ecosystem and it disperses rows.
Do you encounter any difficulties when collaborating for elephant conservation between different governmental bodies and NGOs?
Okay, I think I do. It's the same as other careers when you have to deal with conservation, as conservation is multidisciplinary work, that so you need a lot of skills. You need the basic science, and so you have to deal with a lot of people who know science, and you need to be able to analyze your data into the very, very reliable data set, and also result has to be reliable as well. So you deal with this part. And also if government agencies that understand your work, they will support. So you have to have a connection with government agencies and also people around, as you know that elephants, a lot of people involved with elephant population, especially for conservation. When elephant has problem, the population has been threatened by many factors, outside factors. The group that that you have to deal with government sectors, there are many government sectors and also stakeholders. You can involve with the local NGOs until international NGOs if you want to make a bigger picture and you want to run your project with elephant conservation to make it or to achieve the goals that you have set. So basically you are, if you are conservationist, elephant species or elephant conservation is just a case study for you to process step by steps. And if you are interested in other things, I think that this is also still facing the similar situation but different group of people. So I would think that difficulties for sure, they are like normal career that you have to deal with a lot of people. But one thing that I encourage is try to get over it. You have limitations, but limitations can happen every single career, so not only conservation. So if you want to bring the conservation work or you want to send message from what you are doing, I think that's only best way to do is dealing with others and also sharing. That's the best way.
So you talked about the constraints in conservation around the boundaries of political borders. Do you know if there is any progress in Southeast Asia with these boundary issues, similar to those in Africa where they are trying to set up cross-boundary parks? And would this be a possible solution for Southeast Asia?
I think there are possibilities that you can do, but right now what I have seen is in this very small scales, and many activities that they have done for transboundary issues are the training and wildlife trade information. So there are many international NGOs and government that they really have regional training, for example. So they have smart patrol training, they have animal identification training, they have wildlife trade training. So I think more on training and raising awareness of people. But we still don't have much the action how the protocol should be for conservation strategies along the borders of Thailand.
And you have transferred between the Wildlife Conservation Society and academia. Are there major areas or major activities that were part of your job as a conservationist at WCS that you feel is poorly taught to students and therefore could become much more of a part of what we do with universities, especially for undergraduate students?
I think it differs. As I mentioned at the beginning, that what you have to do is, if you are fond of conservation, you have to bring your passion wherever that stakeholders you are dealing with. So you can have stakeholders who are people from academic, stakeholders who are local villagers. And so if you have conservation mindset and you really have passion to do, I think you can apply to all the careers. Working for NGO is very charming, as I mentioned, and it's very charming. You can feel that it's a lot of work, but a lot of things can happen from your goals. You can be independent thought. You can have independent thought to conduct a lot of works together with your team, and it's more independent to be able to get directions if you agree with your NGO or organization that you are working with. With the academic place, it's also quite nice to work with young people, especially the undergrad. I found that there are some limitations to conduct research when you work with the undergrads, but the way that the undergrads has behaved is actually the fact that how you can process or how you can scope the direction of conservation when you are dealing with these kind of young people, and you know what next that you are going to encourage them to do, and what are the loopholes of dealing with young people. But however, in both ways, everything is good. It depends on how you set your mindset to be able to be happy in where you are doing and what you are doing. Yeah, and also conservation, you have to, you need a lot of skills to deal with people from local communities, people from education level, and people who are in the policy makers level. And I think that once you are in that point, you're gonna know what you can deal with each group of people, learning by doing in the end.
And finally, what advice do you have to young conservationists out there?
I think that when, as a talk that show you that there are a lot of baseline data mentioned, a lot of speakers, the keynote speakers today also mentioned about what you emphasize, what you should go for the next phase of conservation. You can deal with traditional, methods of management, but one thing that I think that cannot be missing is the baseline data. Like what Dr. Alice said, that baseline data is the big thing. Once you want to conduct anything on conservation, baseline data is your knowledge that you can send a message for manager, for any stakeholders that you want to make it happen for conservation. I think that baseline data you can't really forget that. Or even you work for NGO, you work for academic places, you have to have your own knowledge and trying to send a message to others. That's the key thing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I would also like to thank the participants for their questions. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, YCS Conference, so you don't miss out on the other 4 plenary talks. The Young Conservation Scientist Conference 2017 was hosted by Sian University of Technology, Thailand's Institute of Scientific and Technological Research, and the National Science and Technology Development Agency. And of course, this weekend couldn't have happened without the support of our funders, Technopolis at Sian University of Technology, the Mall, Nakhon Ratchasima, John Venture Capital Incorporated, and the Siam Commercial Bank. Thank you.